sorry to say that this is our last lab. I know you're all, laughing in relief, but in all seriousness, it's been a very, very, very fun experience. I hope you've enjoyed these labs. But we are in our last lab, and we're going to talk about electrochemistry. So you've all become chemical experts at this point, watching the YouTube videos and looking at kind of some different things. But today we are going to look at how do we basically we're going to create our basically we're going to measure an electromotive force, and we're going to create a electromotive cell. So we're going to have a little bit of a different system than we are usually working with. So instead of working on our own ions, we're going to have basically copper designated as our positive electrode. So let's go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. So we're going to actually let me kind of draw it a little bit nicer here. So we are going to draw, actually we're going to create a cell where we're going to have some seawater. So usually I bring this fresh from Manresa Beach, so seawater. But unfortunately, not only due to COVID, but due to shark attacks, now I'm a little bit worried about going back to Manresa Beach. But I'm going to get there eventually, pretty soon. But anyways, my fear is overcome. But we're going to have copper as our positive electrode. We're going to kind of hook it up here to our negative electrode, our anode. So we're going to designate this officially, again, our positive electrode. Usually they call that the cathode or anode, but we're going to actually see where are those electrons flowing. So remember, the material that we think is the cathode, again, is going to pull out the electrons. It's going to be receiving the electrons. So we're going to have reduction on the cathode side. We're going to have oxidation on the anode side. So let's see if it's really the truly anode material, because if we measure a positive voltage in this setup, then we know that it's actually acting as the cathode. So it's pulling electrons. But if electrons are leaving, we're going to see a negative potential. So we're going to look at this as a very lot of different metals here. So we're going to investigate quite a few, as you're going to see. Actually, we'll go ahead and skip. You're going to investigate copper versus all of these different metals here. So copper, we're going to keep constant as our positive electrode, but all of these are potential anode material or other materials in our electrochemical cell. So we're going to kind of do, the exact, very, very similar experiment to what we've kind of been discussing in class. So remember, oxidation, we are losing electrons. So we're giving electrons away. Reduction, we're grabbing those electrons. And this is our kind of idealized cell. So if electrons are truly flowing from here to here, this voltage should be positive. So the cathode is the reduction is going on. So we're grabbing electrons, we're electroplating. So for electroplating, we're adding material. If electrons are leaving, this is the material that is undergoing oxidation. It is corroding. So this is going to corrode eventually, because we're losing materials as long as this, it kind of goes on, as long as the kind of reaction is proceeding this way. So cathode, again, positive, electrons flow in, anode, negative, gives up electrons, cathode reduction, anode oxidation, anode is the one that is going to corrode. So we've been estimating essentially these standard electrode potentials from this table. But remember, this is at standard condition, standard temperature and pressure. So with basically 1 molar, you can kind of see in our, we've been working with, again, a 1 molar solution of their own ions, but now we're actually going to be dealing with a different type of material. So these equations aren't going to work. We had to kind of measure this experimentally because it's in seawater. So we need to see, okay, where are these electrons flowing? And we're going to do that with this kind of setup right here. So we're going to actually measure and then figure out where electrons going. And then we can also kind of calculate, again, what's the work. And then we could possibly go through these Nernst equations, but again, we don't know essentially these activities. But we can calculate the work and determine whether this reaction is basically, is this reaction going to occur? Is it spontaneous or is it not spontaneous, depending on Gibbs. So remember, if Gibbs free energy is negative, the change, then it's a spontaneous reaction. If it's positive, we're going to put some work to make that happen. So we're going to create that galvanic cell with our saltwater solution. Copper is always going to be the positive electrode. All the rest are going to be anodes. We're going to measure it for 10 seconds, 10 samples per second, and then we're going to establish essentially this galvanic series. So which ones are more noble or cathodic materials, which are going to go on to grab electrons? The bottom is going to be more anodic materials, and then what material is going to corrode, which material is not. Gives free energy changes, and then compare that ranking to what you think, compare that actual experimental ranking to what you think in terms of the electronegativities as well. So it's a nice, really, really fun lab. You see, we're going to kind of create a little, setup like this. This is actually created by one of my students. So we'll measure these with a vernier DAC sensor with a voltage probe connected to the laptop, and you'll kind of see how that experiment is run. So with that, I'll see you all in the lab, and then we'll see you for one last data analysis video, and then that is it. So prepare well for your final exam, your exam 3 essentially, and then I hope to see you in some other classes soon. Thanks, and in person as well, hopefully, eventually, when it's safe. Thanks. Bye.